Yeah. So thank you all for joining. I wanted to do an impromptu live stream today to talk about building just a Next.js app from scratch based on what y'all had thrown out on Twitter. So I threw this up on the screen. Again, you're probably like, what is he saying? But I want to do a Netflix clone. And the reason why I think this would be interesting is because not only am I going to go from 0 to something with the Next.js app, I get to use Tailwind. And I always like to show how you can kind of morph Tailwind to do a bunch of different designs. I also like to weave in authentication when I can, because I think that shows more of like a real world example. And I actually haven't really built anything with Next Auth yet. So I want to try using that. And then finally, like, deploy out what I get so that I can test it out and see what it looks like. So I'm glad that everyone can hear me. Thank you all for joining so much. We'll see if I get to TypeScript. I don't know if I'm going to do that today or not. I'm pretty bad with TypeScript. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, thank you all so much for joining. Just scrolling through here, and yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay, so without further ado, let's actually get started on some stuff. So this did not work, this loop back. But what I have pulled up here is I got my IDE, which is a great place to start, and I have Netflix.com. And the first thing I want to do is get a base for this application. And I could either start with create next app, or I could start with a more flushed out example. Since I know that I'm going to be using Next Auth, I pulled up a couple tabs here as I was thinking through this. Since I know that I'm going to be using Next Auth to do authentication, which is an open source package, they have a live demo, which is pretty nice, that I tested out a little bit. And I thought, okay, this is a pretty good starting point. Maybe I can take this code and morph it into my hello world, or maybe I should start with Tailwind, because when I was looking at, let's see if I have the code pulled up. I think there was also tell me if you need me to make font sizes or anything bigger. I know it's difficult sometimes. Yeah, I was going to see if there was a good URL in here to inspect the code. Here's the code for that. And we'll see how complex it is. So there's a bit going on in here. It might be too much for hello world. So instead, let's do npx create next app. We're going to do -e for an example, and we'll do with Tailwind CSS. And then we're going to call this something. I'm already in this Next.js Netflix clone directory, but I'm pretty sure this will make a new directory. So I'll just go into that and I'll just say clone. What this is going to do is actually go out to the Next.js GitHub. It's going to fetch the Tailwind CSS example, clone it, and then set up all the dependencies and basically bootstrap your application. So now what I think I actually want to do is reopen this with this new folder. Perfect. And then I'm going to open up my terminal. Okay, so let's quickly just talk through what doing this create next app bootstrap kind of gives us for free here. If you look on the left, we have our Tailwind set up automatically for us. That's good. Post CSS is set up for us. This is what Tailwind uses to kind of prune styles so that you get a small production build. We have a index route. So let's run this locally and to see what we're working with. Yarn dev will start up our Next.js application. Starts it at localhost 3000. And let's see. Oh, I didn't hit enter. That'll do it. Whoops. And it compiles our page, and it loads up this Hello World application. The nice thing about this is it's already set up with Tailwind, so it's got an example of some of these styles in here. And the first thing I want to do, the literal first thing, is I want to do this new Tailwind JIT compiler. So it stands for just in time. Basically, it helps you have faster rebuilds when you're working with Tailwind locally. So let's add that to our project really before we get started. So I'm just going to kill the server here. I'm going to go down and install. I'm using yarn. So yarn add dev and this dependency. I'm going to go into my Tailwind my post CSS config. And instead of the Tailwind CSS package, we're going to use this JIT. You can get rid of this comment. Okay, that looks fine. I think that's the only thing I need to do. The purging is automatically set up. Yeah, don't forget to use this. I'll try my best to attend to the comments as I'm going through here. So feel free to throw out any questions as you have them. So let's try this again. We'll do yarn dev again. I'm just going to close out of that because I won't need it anymore. And if I refresh this page, it is still working. So now if I go into the index route, let's just say hello stream. Nice. So that works. We're using new fonts. Increase the font size on my editor. It's already pretty big. I could try to go even bigger. I will do my best. So I increase the font size. What am I building? I'm going to try to build a clone of some of Netflix.com. So really what I'm doing right now is I have the scaffolding for my project set up. I have this Hello World Next.js Tailwind application running on my local host. That's what I'm building right now. And if I show the package JSON, really what this template gives you is just Next, React DOM, Tailwind automatically configured with the proper setup to get the smallest sizes. So that's really what I have right now as just kind of the Hello World. First thing I want to do is do some UI. So we're going to do auth later. Let's start with actually getting some UI on the screen. And when I go look at Netflix.com, the way that it works for me to kind of clone sites like this or understand how they're built is just to dive into the dev tools and see kind of what we're working with here. So first things first, I want to understand what font they're using. So if I click on here, you see the pop-up. It might be kind of hard to read, but it says that it's using their own custom font, Netflix Sans. And then the fallback font there is Helvetica New. So before I hopped on the screen here, or on the stream here, I actually went and looked because I was like, what is that font? Free? Is it paid? Turns out it's a paid font. So I went over to Google Fonts and I just took this tagline, unlimited movies, TV shows. And a little pro tip here, it's nice that you can drop the text in here and you can kind of compare, okay, how close does this font match what they actually have? There's also the what font extension to check out. Thank you for suggesting that. But I started to look at this because I wanted to find a free font that I could kind of just drag in here. And honestly, Roboto seems pretty close. So I think that's the font I'm probably going to use for this. So what I want to do is let's start getting some actual text on the screen. I think I'm going to have to drop that font back down just a little bit. It's pretty large, hard to code. So let's close this down. We can get rid of, I'm just going to move my local host over here. We can get rid of pretty much everything here, I'd say. And we'll just start with just this top part. So I'm going to get rid of the footer. And actually, I'm going to keep the main. Get rid of the footer. Pitch the main. And let's start copying some content over. So we're going to call this Netflix clone. For the title, we're using Next Head that allows us to change, what tags we want to throw in the head of our document. So we have our title tag. We have a favicon that comes included. We'll copy over this title. I'm going to try to play music. We'll see if it's if you can pick it up. My mic probably won't pick it up, but it's worth a shot. Then you don't have to listen to me just talk on. I'm going to have this fixed by the next stream, I promise. Okay, so the H1 is that text. I'd say we'll do the H2 for watch anywhere, cancel anytime. I don't know. This might be a text 2XL maybe. It's not bold. And then this is, I can't tell if that's on the same line. Oh, no. That's on a different line. So let's do, I don't know. We'll just do a P tag for that. I don't think we want it to be a heading. And then on this P tag, let's do, I don't know. We might not even need, I can't tell if that text needs to be bigger or not. Let's see. So I feel like 6XL is a little big. Maybe 5. That looks somewhat accurate. Does Netflix use Next.js? I don't know. I'm not sure. I guess I could look in the dev tools here. Looks like they're not using Next.js. They're using, looks like maybe just vanilla JavaScript for this landing page. I don't see any frameworks here. Yeah, I don't see any frameworks. It's probably a good old jQuery on here. I don't know. They probably use Next for something else. I see it in the app if you log in. Nice. Yeah. Landing page, they have something completely different here. Let's see. That is a little loud. We're going to need to make this text white. Same here. I might end up inverting this, but I don't know. We'll stick with this for now. Let's make the background black for now. We're going to put the image on there as well. I see a little bit of padding that I don't need on the top. And then I think I'm missing some margins on Watch Anywhere. It needs a little bit of margin on the top, maybe 4. And I could also just do margin Y. That looks okay. And now I need like a max width, I feel like, on the title. Because that seems like it's purposely breaking 2 lines. Max width. Oh, that is not what I want. Let's not do that. I probably want the background black on the actual most outer element too, by the way. That probably was why that was getting cut off. Max width. Try this again. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Medium. Okay, that cut it off at movies. This is a little bit larger. I could always write a custom. Oh, there we go. Limited movies, TV shows, and more. Watch anywhere, anytime. I feel like watch anywhere is still a little large. We'll do 2x there. And then there's also more padding on the bottom. So while we might want margin top 4, let's do margin top. Let's do 8 on the bottom. Cool. Let's do an input. True. I could do this if I wanted to, which is nice. Let's see. Let's do an input. And yeah, I'll probably just put the button beside it. And then wrap this in some kind of container. So we'll give it a flex container. On this input, we'll do a placeholder of email address. Class name will be background white. Padding left. We'll just start with like padding 4. I'm pretty much just winging these styles right now. We'll see. Can you turn around the word wrap on VSCode? That way you don't have to scroll horizontally. I think I'm probably going to leave it like this, at least for now. Word wrap might get a little much. Yeah, and I'm going to need to mess with the letter spacing a little bit here as well, too. Background red, text white, font. It's not bold. We'll do font large. It seems like a little bit bigger. Okay. That looks somewhat okay. Is the text smaller on the email address? Oh, background red, I need to give it a color. 500 maybe? Darker. Do I want to make this let's do padding X4, more than that. And then on this flex container too, let's do a little bit of margin on the top. Email address needs to be longer. I also wonder if I should do I wonder if they're doing a caret here or if they're doing an SVG. They are doing an SVG for a chevron. I might be able just to take this and copy element. See if that works. Yeah, that works. That looks excellent. I think we just ship that the way it is. Yeah, let's not do that. Well, what I could do is go to my good friend Hero Icons, type in chevron right, copy as JSX. There you go. Don't reinvent the wheel. Perfect. Let's see. Class name. Width 4? 5? Sure. Do we want to flex this button? I think we do. Items center. A little flex box. Yeah, how about that? Gotta love some SVGs. Still feels like it could be a little bit bigger. They really want you to get started. They're yelling at you. They say, please get started. Okay, fine. We will make it extra large. That's better. That is definitely better. Honestly, 700 feels a little dark. I could do you know what I should do? Let's use that, let's do the fancy Tailwind JIT stuff. Let's figure out, this is probably their brand color, honestly. If we go to this button, I bet this is their brand color, E50914. Yeah, it's the same as the sign in button too. So let's do BG red. And then if I use the brackets, I'm doing that new fancy hotness where I can just drop this in here. And, oh no, what did I do wrong? Oh, duh. It's not background red that, it's background that. Wow, it looks so much better. Okay, awesome. Email address needs to be longer. Width, maybe min width. No, yeah, maybe min width like 200 pixels or something. It's definitely bigger than that. Because then when it gets on mobile screen, it won't be fixed. Right now, it'd be maximum width. So then when it's on a mobile screen, it doesn't overflow. So maximum width of 400 pixels, width full. No. I don't know. I'll go back to min width. Yeah, I'm liking that. I feel like ready to watch could be a little bit bigger. Let's do text large. Nice. Okay, let's try to do this background image. Yes, this is Tailwind, and yes, CSS is hard. I'm not good at it. I could move this to a global variable, or I could put it in the Tailwind config if I wanted, but it's kind of fun to try out these new things. Yeah, if I probably use it multiple times, then I'll do that. CSS is a pain. Absolutely, absolutely. The next thing I want to try is, I was looking through the output here, and I saw that this like background element, it has an image, and that image has a background or a gradient on top of it. So I pulled up that image here, the high quality one. We want to set that as the background, and then we want to slap a gradient on top of it as well. So I actually don't know how to do this, so I was trying to see if there was a Tailwind CSS way to do it, because I'm used to the CSS way of doing it, where you like do a linear gradient and then you put the background in there as well. We could do this in just, you know, good old-fashioned CSS, but I wonder if we could do something like this. This person on, I mean, what is paste from Stack Overflow, right? Isn't that what I want to do here? Relative positioning, background cover. I mean, oh, interesting. They're just saying, hey, actually just use inline style. Sure. I mean, Stack Overflow told me to, so I mean, I'm going to do it. Let's go up here and we'll say style. Remember, in JSX, you can't do that. You have to do an object, because of course you do. And it's gonna turn this into a string. Throw a little space here and fix that. Hit save. This is gonna be like, wait a minute, this does not exist. So I want to save this image, hero background.jpg. Where was this at? Next.js, Netflix clone. Public folder is where static assets are at. I mean, I could also put in a full URL here, but let's do hero background.jpg. Okay, close that, go back to here. It's like, what are you trying to do? The color is purple. Why is that? Let's do whatever they had. Let's see if we can find it. Oh, here's the image. Where's their overlay? Looking for a gradient. Yeah, send the link for sure. I might just have to do my own here because I'm not seeing the CSS. Well, that's fine. Maybe we'll just steal. Go back to here. Let's fix these colors. We want black, obviously. And I don't think we necessarily even need a gradient. We really just need an overlay. I mean, these are pretty heavy. We probably want something more like 50%. We could do a gradient. 60%. Sure. Let's copy this back over to here. Okay, so we have that. We're closer. Now what we could do is do a little bit of navbar. What do y'all think? Should we do the navbar or should we jump into Next Auth? Because interestingly enough, their sign up flow goes through this input box, which is kind of interesting. I don't know. Let me know in the chat. Should I keep going on the UI or should I jump into Next Auth? This is a choose your own adventure stream. What is DevRel? DevRel is developer relations. It is doing fun things like this and helping educate communities. Very nice. Very nice. Auth. Next Auth. Hell yeah. Let's do it. We have enough UI, right? We don't need to go any further. Cool. Let's go back to Next Auth. Get started. To add Next Auth to a project, we need an API route. So let's do that. We'll go to Pages, API, a new folder auth, and then a new file, a dynamic route, actually a catch-all route, which uses this ... syntax. And we'll do next auth.js. Cool. I don't really want, well, do I want to do GitHub? Do I not want to do GitHub? I don't know. I wonder what the easiest login is here. Let's see. What other providers do we have here? GitHub, Twitter. I don't know. We'll do GitHub. Shameless copy paste. We don't need any more providers. Cool. And then a database is optional, but required to persist accounts in a database. I don't think we're going to persist anything for now. Yes, people are excited about Auth. Yeah, people have seen enough UI here. Next Auth isn't official, but it is really nice. Google, Discord. Is there a Netflix provider? Okay, I see two requests for Google. Let's do that. Let's do that instead. Google, providers, copy, paste, save. I need to probably install Next Auth. That would be good. I think that's going to be important. We have our API route. Now all requests that go to API/auth for sign in, callback, sign out, they basically, when you use this catch-all route, it automatically makes all of those for you, which is nice. And now we need this use session hook. So I'm going to go back to index, import this use session. Let's do that inside of here so we can determine whether we're loading, whether we've already logged in or not. And then I'm just going to take this and we will throw it. You know, for now, we'll just throw it. We'll throw it inside the main just so we have something to see. Okay. Next, add a session state. We want to share session between pages. Perfect. I love that. Love it, love it, love it. App.js. We already have one set up so that we can import our global styles for Tailwind. Basically, what this file is doing is it's allowing you to kind of share a layout for every single page. So every single page is getting initialized with this CSS. And further now, every page would be getting wrapped by this basically React context provider, letting the pages know about the different Next Auth information. So I want to keep these styles. I don't want to lose those, but we can keep the rest of this. We are well on our way. Documentation for deploying. Don't need to do that yet. I wonder if I'll probably need to set up Google first. Let's see. Configuration, documentation. I'm definitely gonna need these client ID and client secrets. Let's see what we're working with here. I'll probably need an OAuth app, would be my guess. Create credentials. OAuth client ID. They really need docs on this. Let's see, internal or external? External. App name, Next.js Netflix clone. Support email, sure. App logo, Homepage. Netflix clone.forsell.app. Actually, Next.js Netflix. I'm kind of just winging this, so we're going to see if it works. Oh, we don't specify the scheme. Okay. Yeah, I'm assuming we want localhost in here too. Just my guess. Okay, maybe not. Localhost 3000. Nope, guess not. Doesn't like that. And yeah, I'll probably delete this after I post the keys for sure, because people will see them. It's fine. I do not know what scopes I need. Was there any more information inside of here? I need a client ID and a client secret. Wrong tab. Probably email. Sure. The default should be enough for regular sign-in. Okay. I guess we haven't really even tried it yet, so maybe I'm going further than I need to with the Google stuff. Restart my server. Let's see if I go back to my index route. Next auth environment variable URL not set. Yep, probably going to need that. Let's go back to here. Go back to the getting started. Where's the getting started? I'm on this weird, like, kind of mobile menu, kind of not right now. I believe it said something about a URL here, but that's only for deploying. So it shouldn't matter. So where is my button? If there's no session, it should say not signed in, right? Oh, it's on there. It's just really hard to see. Let's take this on click. Whoa, okay. I need more editor here. Let's take this on click and we'll put it on the button that we can actually see. So we see sign in with Google, and we need the client ID and the client secret. That makes sense. There's also, I believe there's also like passwordless. Actually, whoa, I still need that tab. There's also passwordless like Magic Link login, but yeah. So the two things we need are Google client ID, Google client secret. So let's go to our directory and make a new file, .env.local for our local environment variables. And we need this, and we need a client secret. And now let's go back to here. Test users. That will be me. I don't even know if this is necessary, but we'll see. Okay. Credentials. Oh, I think maybe I'm on an existing project here. Maybe I just need to make a completely new project. Netflix clone. You know, I probably should have started there. That makes sense. That does make sense. Because then I could go to credentials right away. And again, it's got to be a client ID, right? Web app, Next.js app. HTTPS Next.js Netflix .app. When I eventually do that, HTTP localhost 3000. Oh, here we go. I'm guessing there's also a redirect that we have to set. Like it's going to have to redirect back to our application, which is probably callback. Probably needs to be in the docs somewhere, but that's okay. Let's try this. We have values, client ID, client secret. Okay. Save. I'm going to restart my server so I can get these env values loaded. Yeah, you know, we're all in this together. We are here. Where's the session coming from? Sorry, I just went to get a beer. Cheers. Thanks for joining. And the session will be coming from this provider in _app.js using a React context. So let's go back to our local host, click get started. It redirects us to that API/auth/sign-in route. I hit sign in with Google, and we have a redirect URI mismatch because this is the full URL. So let's go back to here. Edit this. Put in the correct value for the callback. And let's try it again. Yeah! Woo! It looks like that works. Yeah, no problem. Let's log in with my account. And this is, what do we got here? Invalid. Try signing in with a different account. Invalid client. Unauthorized. Did I copy something wrong? I saw somebody mention that in the chat. I feel like if I copied it wrong, though, it wouldn't have... Oh, I think somebody was real sneaky there. Somebody... You have a good eye. Thank you for that, because I think I did copy that wrong. Let's go back in here. Gotta scroll this way over. Restart. Okay, so I failed with copy paste because, I mean, that's what everybody does, right? Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining, everyone who's joined today. This is fun. We're making up as we go. This is what it's like. Let's go. Sign in with Google. Takes us over to Google. This time, it worked. So now, this is so hard to see, but if you look up here, you see it says signed in as lrobinson2011@gmail.com. So we've authenticated successfully with Google. Now we need to do something with that. Let's see what happens. If I go back to our index route. So we're able to access our current user by using this use session hook. So we determine whether we're loading and whether there's a session. And then we have that email available right here. So my guess is that I think they have a separate sign-in page for this. What we probably want to do is on sign in, if you're signed in, we can redirect if they're on the landing page. That could work. Or we could make the callback. That's another thing too. We could also make the callback when you've authenticated, take you back to, whatever your logged in route is. So why don't we change this button in the header? We could change that from a sign in to a sign out based on using that context hook. So if there's no session, you're not signed in, you have the sign in button. Otherwise, you can do this sign out button. What do y'all think? Should we do that? Should we do something else? Should we redirect? Maybe redirect. What we could do inside of here is we could say, if you have a session, we can do some use effect and say, actually, we want to do like a router.push. And whoa, that just auto imported for me. We want to push to, I don't know, app or something like that. Whatever you want your logged in page to be. There's a few extra things you can do here on top if you'd like, where you can actually check for cookies in the head of your document so that it doesn't have to wait for React to boot up or JavaScript to boot up to make this check. I see a question here on protected routes. I like that because I know that Next Auth has something for this. So let's check that out. Let's look at this example code. And if I go into pages, API, examples, protected. So you're also able to get the session on the server. So when you're in an API route, get access to that request and then determine if it's a protected route or not. I want to try this. I want to see if this works. Let's go to our application. I'm just going to get rid of that. We'll go to pages, API, user. And inside of here, we're getting the session. We're going to get information about the user potentially. So let's log out what the session is because I don't really know what I'm even dealing with here. If there isn't a session, then it says, hey, this is a protected route. Otherwise, you must be signed in to view this page. Okay. Digging that. I'm digging it. So if I go to localhost/API/user, this is protected content. You can access this because we're signed in. So what does that actually look like to be signed in? My guess is it's in a cookie. I see Next Auth here in a cookie. Yeah. Right here. So these values are saved in cookies. That makes sense. If you look over here, in my terminal output, I logged out what the user was. And we have the name, email, an image when it expires. So rather than saying, hey, this is a protected route, what we could do inside of here is say, we want to return session.user. Nice. So now we have information about the user. We could use this to run something securely on the server in an API route to do some operation based on me as a person signed into this application. That's pretty cool. Next Auth makes that pretty easy, actually. It looks like you could also get the JWT if you needed to as well, if you needed to like forward that to Hasura or some other kind of external service. Nice. That's really cool. The Google part, I stumbled on the console a little bit, but overall, I think that was actually easier than I thought to basically hook it up to a Google OAuth app. Whoa, that zoomed in a lot. Hook it up to a Google OAuth app and do something with it. Yeah, I was building a little bit of a Netflix clone. Just wanted to use Tailwind and this new compiler to build some kind of page and then hook that up to Next Auth. So when I click on this, it allows me to sign in with Google. Pretty neat, actually. Where do we take it from now? I'm planning to bootstrap a Next.js app. I'm using Tailwind. Do you recommend something like Twind or Twin Macro? This is pretty much all personal preference. So for context, if I go into the index route, you'll notice that it's possible for your class names to get long. And when they get long like this, for some people, they just don't like the readability of this. They think that it'd be better if it was kind of broken down in a different way. Plus, if you need to conditionally add classes, you typically, I mean, you can do this manually, but typically people pull for a library called class names, which basically allows you to say like, given some base set of styles, and then you get a pass in conditions, essentially. So, if loading, then we want to add a spinner or something like that. And you can use these then in your class name, and it automatically changes those. That's how I've typically done conditional styles with Tailwind, but either way really works. I know a lot of people like the CSS and JS approach. Yeah, could use Firebase too. I've done a full course on Firebase called React 2025 that explores some of these things too. So check that out if you're interested in Firebase. Custom sign-in page. Yeah, I know that that is possible with Next Auth. I believe they talked about it somewhere in here, but basically you have the ability to use those hooks, right? Like you have the ability to do sign in, sign out. So if you want, you can kind of build that UI as you see fit. Let's see, skip. Can you skip the sign in page? That's a good question. I don't know. I would assume that. I wonder if what you're thinking is if it knows that you already have a cookie, if it will just skip right past this. I'm not sure about that. That's a good question, though. Yeah, let's show something or hide something based on the auth state. I like the idea of that because then we're using that auth provider inside the home page. I am on board. Let's do a header with that sign in button. So my guess is, let's do, probably copy some of the styles from this person. And we're going to have some div inside of here. If there is no session, so similar to below, then we want to do some conditional styling. So if there's no session, do some button. Otherwise, I'll just say sign in. Otherwise, and I'm using a ternary here to do this. Otherwise, sign out. Could also extract this into a, come on, Prettier, help me out. Boom, save. Thank you, Prettier. I'm just going to delete this because I don't need this anymore. So if there's no session, then we want a sign in button. If there is a session, then we want a sign out button. And why it's sometimes nice to like abstract these things is that you don't want to have those duplication of styles here as much, because I'm already looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, I don't think we really need text XL here, and we probably don't need that much padding. And there's some rounded corners too. So it kind of looks like they have a little bit more padding on the sides and then some on top too. So like maybe, by the way, I'm using Command D here to select multiple. So then I can change both of these at the same time. So PY2 and then maybe rounded small. That looks pretty good. Honestly, it could probably go even a little bit smaller. Still feels a little large. Let's do text small. Okay. Now what we want to do for this header is do some better positioning here. So let's make this flex. We're going to do justify between, because we're probably going to have another div inside of here that's going to be the Netflix logo. And this is going to be full, this is going to be full width. And on the x-axis, we want a little bit of padding. On the y-axis, we want also a little bit of padding. Oh, close. My guess was good, but we need more. Increase. Perfect. Let's get this Netflix logo in here. I found a good website the other day. Where was it? SVG. World Vector Logo. I think this is what it was. World Vector Logo. Because I'm always searching for like, hey, give me that SVG of some logo. And this site's pretty nice. Because then basically, this is what my workflow usually looks like for getting SVGs. I go here, I'm like, perfect, Netflix logo, saved me like 5 hours worth of Googling, download SVG, cool. Then I go to SVGO online because it's an online optimizer. You just drop it in here. And I'd say, okay, open SVG, go find that inside here. And now you see it dropped it 93%. So it really shrinks the size down, which you want to do. You can copy that. And then let's go back over to here. This doesn't copy as JSX, so I'll probably have to change some things, maybe. You might have to change like hyphen case to camel case, but that seemed fine. Now I think the only thing missing here is class name and how wide we want it potentially. Oh my God. What a guess. I just guessed 24 and it was like, boom, you nailed it. That's so close. I'm not even mad. I'm impressed. Let's try 28, maybe just a little, yep, just a little bit bigger. And then actually looking at this again, I don't want rounded small. I want a little bit more rounded. Okay, so now if I click this, it should sign me out. Let's try that. Oh, there we go. Sign me out, change the text to sign in. I can't tell if that's hard to see on the stream, but changed it to sign in. Click sign in with Google. I could do a custom screen here if I wanted, brings me back. Sign out. Let's go. Nice. Yeah, Netflix might have a brand page. See, this is the problem though. Not all brand pages are useful. Like some of them are awesome and some of them are terrible. Like, and they don't even give you SVGs. You download a zip file and it's like an asset of files for Illustrator. That's why I recommend that Icon Monster site or whatever it was called. Very, very cool. Which bookmark extension am I using? It's called Raindrop. Raindrop Drop Top. Yeah, it's pretty good. I've enjoyed using it so far. If you do sign in Google, it should avoid the Next Auth intermediary page. Nice tip. Let's try that. Sign in Google. And then sign out. Sign in. Oh, there we go. That's so much better. That makes a big difference. This is really coming along. Do you get any data back from the auth provider, like the name of the user that you can show? Yeah, if you scroll back a little bit when this is published, I can go to API/user, and I set up this protected route, and it's basically saying, hey, only if you're logged in, tell me more about the user from the session. Very nice. Instead of that, you can do, oh yeah, that was, yeah, great suggestion. Hey, thanks for joining. I'm sure that shows up in the YouTube chat better. Nice. We're making good progress here. Maybe the next thing I'll try to do is add a custom font. That could be fun. You can really go really deep on custom fonts. So, oh, this is great. Maybe you should use the updoc package. What's updoc? That's good. That's good. I like that. Let's try to use Roboto. We'll try to change out the fonts and see what we're working with. Let's see. We probably want, how many weights do we need? We have a bold, we have a normal. I think that's really all we're using right now. So let's do, it's not really that bold. It's more of a medium. And let's say, is it light? It's more of a regular. Wait, where did it go? Oh, here we go. So Roboto, 400, 500, link or an import. You can really do it either way you want. For this, maybe what we'll do is we'll do an import potentially. We'll do the link. I don't know. They both work. Will it not let me copy it? Come on. Okay, so inside of my application, since there's only one page right now, I'm just going to do it inside the head that we've already defined here. You probably would want to move this to like a document.js so that it's on every single page you use. But for now, it's fine. It's not happy about something. Oh, here we go. So what is this doing? Let's take a look. Let's dive in a little further. Pre-connect to this URL for Google Fonts. Go to Google Fonts, download Roboto 400, 500, swap out. So show the fallback first and then swap it out with that font once it loads. And yeah, why is it still complaining? Injects elements into the head tag. Yes, I know that. Expected closing tag for link. Oh, I missed one here. Sometimes when you copy paste HTML snippets, they get screwed up because they don't have a self-closing tag, and then you have to add it. Just a little thing that you'll might run into. Okay, and now we obviously don't see any changes here yet because we need to tell Tailwind, hey, we want to use a different font family. I'm guessing probably the easiest way here would be just to override the theme to use a different one. So basically going into our Tailwind config inside our theme. We don't want to extend that. We just want to say font family. Well, actually, yeah, let's extend it because we're only going to change one of the variants. So font family, I don't know. I'm pretty sure I've seen a better way to do this, and I think it was on my own site because I think you can extend the existing. Yeah, here we go. So you can pull in the default config. I don't want to have to like specify all the fallback fonts. I want to just use the fallback fonts that Tailwind gives me. So then let's do this instead, where we say, here's the font we want, which is Roboto, and then just fall back to whatever the default was if you don't have that. And now we have Roboto. See if we can actually see that. It's subtle. I'll zoom in if we can. It's subtle, but it makes a difference, especially if you're not on Mac. So San Francisco, Roboto. Just cleans it up a little bit. Another thing that we had talked about prior in the stream was letter spacing. And I think that, yeah, they have quite a bit more letter spacing on the header. So let's go to that H1. Man, what is it called again? I think is it tracking? Yes, tracking is letter spacing. Oh yeah, with that Tailwind VSCode extension, and when you hover over things, it shows you what the actual underlying styles are that's applied. So yeah, threw a little bit of letter spacing on there. That looks a little bit better. I feel it still is a little too bold. We might want to do, I could override the config for this. Actually, I probably should override the config for this because I think the default font weight is now off because I downloaded 400 and 500. So if I go to Tailwind config, I want to extend font weight. Oh man, there's a lot here. Actually, or let me guess, I'm doing text, or wait, no, font bold. So I'm doing font bold here, which is 700 by default. So I could just change this to medium so that it actually uses the correct weight. There we go. That's better. Much better, much, much better. Can't tell. Is that a 400 or a 500? So obviously I like the front end, so I nitty gritty over details like this that some people don't care about at all. So I will pause on this and check the chat. Let me know what questions you have. Let's see. Yeah, the great thing about API routes is that you can kind of stitch in functionality to connect with all sorts of little other services that you need, whether that's talking to your database or doing auth or setting an email. It's nice that you don't have to like set up a whole Express server for that. I know that I was personally like mostly a front end dev until like I had worked with Express before, I'd worked with backends before, but I would never like build my own app with Express just because I don't know, I never really enjoyed it. And I started using Next more, then I was like, all right, I guess I'll like delve more into the back end of things. Yeah, StreamYard needs those emojis. Come on. Chalkboard font. I can only imagine that's just heinous. Yeah, check out the React 2025 playlist for sure. You gotta love yourself from the past. I copied this from your site. This happens to me all the time where I'm like, man, I can't remember how to do that. I know I've done this before, but I don't, and then you're like, oh yeah. I have it on a repo somewhere. I just need to copy that. Can you pair Next with GraphQL? Absolutely. I have one example I can probably pull up. See if I can find it. It's been a while since I've had it on here, but I have an example with Hazura. So if you're familiar with Hazura, it's like basically a GraphQL in a box. And in this example, I say in get server-side props, I'm getting the to-dos from my Hazura function. And if you go to get to-dos, basically what I'm doing is I'm using GraphQL request to connect to Hazura, forward along these headers, and then make a GraphQL call to fetch some information. So the key thing here is when you're in get server-side props or get static props, you're in the node context, and you can run whatever you want, whether that's GraphQL or REST or direct calls to your database. I mean, it's really up to you on what you want to do there. Hey, thanks for joining. TypeScript first prop types. I don't know. That's more heated discussion. I'm sure people have lots of feelings on that. I've used TypeScript for some things, and it's all right. I'm just not very good at it yet. I'm learning. You can use Next with Express. For a lot of people, they might already have a backend with Express set up somewhere, running their existing API, and they don't want to change things. You can basically then use that as your separation of concerns. I have my backend over here, I have my front end over here, and they connect to each other via get static props or get server-side props or whatever. But if you are asking like, can I do everything with Express in Next.js? Pretty much, I would say, yeah. It's not exactly the same thing, I think, but most of the time for what I was using Express for, I'm able to do it inside of Next.js directly. How do you do protected pages? Good question. This is also something that we could quickly do. Because I know that inside of this next auth example, they give you the tools to do this as well too. So I really like that. They have two different ways to do it, I believe. One is, let's see if I can find it. So in this example, hopefully you all can see this. They're saying, okay, we have a protected page here. When it mounts, show a loading state. If there's no session, then say, hey, access denied. You can't come inside this page. And otherwise, show whatever layout you want. This works pretty well for some people. They make this check on the client side. I believe you're also probably able to make this check inside of get server side props. So we could just try this because I'm not really sure, to be honest. So let's go to pages. We'll make a new page. We'll call it protected.js. And we'll copy over this example here. Okay, so in this, let's take a look at what we're doing here. We don't need their layout component. So we get the session for using on the server, and then we forward it to the client. So the session is already populated on the render without needing to go through a loading stage. This is possible because the shared context in app.js that is used by session. Nice. So if I, well, what I could do here is do a p tag. I'll do json.stringify of session. I think that's the right magic for pretty printing out JSON. I don't know. Okay, let's save. Go back to here, go to /protected. What are we working with here? Layout is not defined. You're right. Okay. Nice. So in this example, we're doing server-side rendering on a protected page. And we get the session here and we forward it along. So on the initial load, the markup that we're getting from the server already has the information about our user. We don't have to do a client-side check in this regard. So that's actually pretty convenient that they give you a hook to do that. I know this isn't formatted very well, but hopefully that gets to the idea. We are coding and making a little Netflix clone that, oh my gosh, it's zoomed in so much. A little Netflix clone that uses Next Auth for authentication. What other questions do we have here? When should you use a rewrite over a redirect? So rewrites in Next.js are essentially like a URL proxy. So let's say that I wanted to go to, let's say I wanted to go to like /API, and I want this to be the entry point into my application. With a rewrite, you can say, actually take that request and forward it to, /API/login. So the URL that's exposed is still API, but behind the scenes, this is what you're doing. I've seen this used before for people who want to have like a top level GraphQL endpoint. So like your app.com/GraphQL. But then what it actually does is forwards to API GraphQL. That's one example of a rewrite. A redirect is you would physically actually go from this to this. So you would see this URL in your browser instead of seeing this. So one masks it and the other one actually transforms it. Hopefully that makes sense. Is it a good idea to create a front end and a back end in a Next.js project for a big project? I would say that the majority, it's hard to give like blanket advice here, but for the majority of the time, like if we're talking really, really large projects, they probably have separate backends somewhere because there's multiple consumers of that backend. They might have a web app, a new one. They might have an older one, a mobile client with multiple contributors, potentially multiple different systems too. So I would say More often than not, there's probably multiple people contributing there as well too. I'll pull back my screen share if I need anything else, but I'm just going to try to look through some more of these comments, and then we'll probably wrap up here in the next, I don't know, whenever the comments run out. I've got some time, so I can hang out for a little bit. You need to use undefined instead of null. Yep, that was the thing I was missing on the JSON. Either one of these works. Basically, you can use whatever you please for GraphQL with Next. Next doesn't care basically how you fetch your data, whether it's GraphQL or REST. And yeah, you wrap it with a pre. Now we're talking. Now it's really nice and formatted. Thank you guys for joining. Do I recommend extracting the Tailwind styles into style tag in the head for a performance improvement? I would say just stick with what the example gives you. That's going to be, well, what the example gives you plus the JIT stuff is really nice for the best local dev experience. Let me know if we should update that example to include that by default, because I think that's probably what most folks are probably going to want to do now. VS Code theme. Oh, it's not in the description on this video yet, but I'll put it in the description. It's called Sorcerer, so check that out too. What other questions? Can you use Next Auth without API routes? I'd like to use it alongside my current Express backend. So in this instance, I don't think that you would use Next Auth in this instance. The nice thing about Next Auth is when it uses that wildcard catch-all pattern, you only have one file, and behind the scenes, that library is setting up all of the plumbing for you. So it's making multiple different APIs, and you didn't really have to do anything. There's another library called Next Stripe. There's Next CRUD. All of these libraries essentially that allow you to automatically set up all these different API routes without having to do it yourself. So if you already have an existing Express app, you might consider doing something with like a Passport.js for authentication, which is also a good option in the Express world. Lots of people asking about TypeScript. I think TypeScript is definitely useful, but it really depends on your team and what you're building. There's also different types of TypeScript code. Like TypeScript in your app is one level of complexity, and then like writing a library that has TypeScript is a completely different level of complexity. So yeah, I'd try it out. I mean, there's no harm in trying it. If you don't like it or you think it's too complex, it's not helping you create things faster, it's impeding on your progress, then you don't need it. Do I prefer REST or GraphQL? I don't know. I've used them both. They both work well. GraphQL can be nice when you're trying to stitch together a bunch of different services. I've used it at a prior company where we had like all these different microservices, all with their own area of, I don't know, like one was for products, or one was for customers, or one was for prices. And then the GraphQL layer kind of stitched all of that together so that you had one interface, one graph that you could query. That's really nice. For smaller projects, I mean, you probably don't need that. That's why typically REST is just a lot easier in that regard. Also, there are some benefits for GraphQL on mobile apps when you're only making like one request instead of like a bunch of different requests. But that's getting pretty far into the weeds. Yeah, I've heard people talk about this, but I don't honestly, I don't know anything about it. Basically, you have, I'll give you my summary of it. You have folks who say, we love TypeScript, we're all in on TypeScript. And then we have some other folks who say, I like the type checking, that's great, but I don't want the overhead of TypeScript. And there's a certain camp of people who are using JS doc comments to essentially tell their program what the values of the types of their application are. And then they use that as their type checker, essentially. I don't know how it's set up. I don't know what it really looks like, but I've heard that some people really enjoy that. When not to use Next.js. There's a really good talk from Jeff from HashiCorp at this, from Next.js conference. It's on the Vercel YouTube channel if you want to check it out. But I can think of two really good ones. If you are building a website that is hyper like focused on something like, you know, D3 or 3JS or like interactive visualizations, you have to be really careful about performance. And you're also giving it like basically a single page app feel. And in that regard, you want to use as little JavaScript as possible. Like you probably want to use, vanilla JavaScript or like vanilla D3 for some of these things, or like 3JS in particular for some of those animations. In that case, you probably don't need Next.js. It's more of a question of like, do I need a framework or not? If I need a framework to help me build a web application, I have multiple pages, I'm going to need to route between pages. I want the boilerplate or the things configured for me out of the box. That's when you really want a framework. But that's why you see things like Svelte get popular for smaller sites where, I'm really critical about wanting to have a little bit of JS on my page. And in that regard, you want something that's a little more, I guess, bare metal. Hopefully that helps. We were on the same boat and then TypeScript divided us. Yeah. I'm not sure. I don't know. If you use JSDoc extensively, you'll eventually end up switching to TypeScript, especially if you're enjoying the type checking. That's an interesting take. I don't have much to say on it because I haven't tried it myself, but I feel like I pretty much have to try it now based on all these comments. Does it make sense for a UI library like Material UI to come pre-styled over something like Chakra UI for a production app? So both Material UI and Chakra come with styles included. They both have different ways to allow you to extend those styles and change them. But I would say really what you're asking about is the difference between headless UI libraries and libraries that ship with opinionated styles included. I would say the majority of the time, if your focus is on getting something done as quickly as possible, you want one of those libraries that's going to give you opinionated defaults. So the Chakra UIs of the world, like you want that because you want a good design and you don't want to spend a bunch of time reinventing the wheel there. If you know upfront that you're really going to need to tweak this design to match your brand, and it's going to drastically differ than what these components offer, you want these headless UI libraries, things like what Tailwind offers you, where it's just utility classes, or things like Stitches and Radix, which I did a live stream on previously, or React Aria, or like things like this, where they give you the primitives to understand how to put the pieces together, but they let you configure the styles however you want, essentially. I replaced all my HTML with Next.js static site generation. Is that bad? It's not bad. It's really just up to you. I think there's always going to be a place for good old-fashioned HTML on the web. Some people try to make this distinction between like websites and web applications. And if you're more on the website front, then they argue that you should just use vanilla HTML. I think the reality is a lot of those folks making that argument maybe they have thought of it, maybe they haven't thought about it, but to do even a website in a really performant way that works well for users across the world on different devices, you're probably going to have to do things with, performantly serving images or doing image optimization or, internationalization, depending on the content that they want to serve. Like the HTML spec is getting better. It's got better every year to allow more of these things to be built into the platform. But you use these frameworks to help you expedite that process and get more things for free. Like when I think about Next.js and the image component, like all of the things that it provides, you can 100% do with just HTML and CSS. Like the source set property on an image is something that is part of the HTML spec. But Next.js image component just allows you to do it a little bit easier. So it's a time trade-off there. There's always going to be people who are like the brutalists. They want to go bare metal and write everything from scratch, and it's really whatever works for them. Yeah, there's a lot of good headless UI libraries out there. What are your thoughts on interviews for jobs using React, not using React in their interviews? Facebook, Twitter are using vanilla JS for jobs that use React in common. I would say that I've been in job interviews that specifically used React a few times. It probably depends on the type of job that you're interviewing for. There's 100% job interviews that are looking for React knowledge, and they're going to quiz you on understanding the component model and how those pieces work together. But then there's also going to be, probably from the larger companies, things at a more higher level where they're assuming that you can learn, whether it's React or a new framework or whatever they need you to learn, you can learn that. And they're trying to understand more of do I understand how to build good websites? And could I do it with vanilla JS? Now there's pros and cons to that. I have like mixed feelings on that because I like that. But then I also don't want to like invert a binary tree in an interview question. Like that's just dumb. I'm never going to do that unless, I mean, maybe somebody does it at Google, but I never do that when I'm building sites or when I'm doing things. I've worked on some pretty large sites. So I don't know. I have mixed feelings. You're going to love this stream when I replay it because we talk about OAuth and Next.js. You can absolutely learn Next as you learn React. I think that when I've taught people some of my courses, I've had a few folks who they were actually just getting into web development in general. And they started with Next.js because when you're learning Next.js, you're still learning React. Like there is a small layer of opinionation, like things like how you route between pages that Next.js is going to give you. But there are things that you would have had to figure out anyway if you were doing it in React land on yourself. What you are learning, though, is all of the core concepts of React in general. The component model, how you handle state, how you pass components or how you pass props from one component to another. All of these different pieces of building React applications, how to do styling. It doesn't really matter if it's a Next.js or a React project. And honestly, it doesn't matter if it's React even. A lot of this stuff translates to Vue too. What you're learning is the fundamentals of building good websites. Yes, you can use Next Auth personally or for an organization or your own OAuth server. Pretty sure you can do whatever you want with it. It's completely open source too if you want to check out the code. Yes, yeah. I would say if I had to give you advice, read through the React documentation for sure. I think that it's pretty good. There's a few things to note. The React documentation currently teaches class components. And if you saw, everything I did today was using hooks, which if you're not familiar with that, that's totally okay. But they're working on rewriting the docs so that it's more hook focused from the start because the majority of people are now using hooks. If you're learning React from start, don't focus too much on the mental model behind class components because I've found from people who are learning React from the start, it's more confusing to learn classes and then go to hooks than it is just to go straight to hooks from what I've heard from people. React query is pretty cool. There's a few other libraries like that. Apollo, SWR, essentially they are simplifying the way for you to fetch data in React. I have some API. I want to fetch some information, like make my life easier, please. And I'm a big fan of these libraries for simplifying that process because the beginning of React, it was a lot harder to do this, especially to tie it into your state management solution. I am not sure about this one, really what you mean here about email template development, but yeah, it's hard. I feel like it's hard to make email templates in programming languages. There is one, I don't remember the name of it, but if you Google like Tailwind email generator, there you can use Tailwind to build emails with some service, which is kind of cool where you can like reuse that knowledge. But yeah, emails are difficult for sure. Okay, so I have went longer on the stream than I thought, but that's totally okay because I'm really glad that you were all able to join today and ask so many questions. I will push up this code to Vercel. I don't know if I should do that right now or wait till after, just because I don't want to spend too much time here. But yeah, I'll make sure that's in the description, and feel free to reach out if you have any more questions. Thank you for joining today. Really appreciate it. So have a great rest of your day, and cheers.